Hi, I'm Mike, and this is what the cows have to eat. Normally, this plant would be 3 feet tall. This year, it's this. We're going to take a look at how the cows are faring and what they have left on our Wyoming Life. Hi guys, welcome back. Thanks for joining me once again, and if this is your first time here, be sure to subscribe, hit the like button, and hit the little bell so that you get notified when we have new videos that come out. I'm standing down here in what normally is our most lush of hay fields. Normally, this field would be cut already. It would be baled into 1,400-pound bales. There would be hundreds of them sitting here in this field, and that food that's in those bales would go towards feeding the cows all winter long. But this year, it looks like this. This hay field has now become a pasture, and pastures are here basically just to sustain cows through the summer. We have over 5,000 acres here on the ranch, and only 500 acres of that is dedicated to hay ground. The other 4,500 acres or so is there for cows to eat all summer long. And that 500 acres is what gives them the food that they need to eat over the winter. So our hay fields are actually better producers than the pastures in a normal year. This year, however, they're not. There's lots of things we could blame this whole mess on. Mother Nature, global warming, climate change, I don't know, whatever. But what it is a lack of rain. Over the last 5 years here on the ranch, we've been in drought for 3 of those 5 years, and we've had to buy hay for 4 of them. One of them because of hail last year. It's disconcerting, and it wears you down, and it's sad to see hundreds of acres like this that's producing little to nothing. This is an alfalfa plant. This should be blooming like this, and those little tiny blooms, they're not worth anything. In fact, this field is so desolate that the bees were actually pulled out of this field this year. There's nothing here. There's not even enough in this field for bees to eat, and we expect cows to live out here. The cows aren't here yet. They will be soon enough, and they'll graze this field down lickety-split. But right now, the cows are actually back another 2 miles or so, or 1.5 miles, at a pasture that we call the one-legged windmill pasture. This is the one-legged windmill. It's called the one-legged windmill because instead of having a derrick type thing built to it to support it, it's actually made up of one single huge piece of pipe, and it's not even hooked up right now. Luckily, we haven't needed it so far. I just noticed this. It's kind of cool. The one-legged windmill pasture down here is where the cows are currently hanging out. You can see a bunch of them back here behind me, and they're moving around doing the cow stuff. And the main reason that we don't have the windmill turned on is because of this pond. Still got plenty of water in it, and the cows are still obviously hanging out around the pond. The general rule is that cows will only wander 1 mile or 1.5 miles away from water. If that's true, then the problem is that they're not going to graze this field efficiently. They're going to graze around the water first and then move their way out, which isn't horrible, but we do want to make sure that they're close to water when they need to be, especially during these hot temperatures where we're expecting temperatures in the 90s for the next few days. Looks are deceiving, right? There's water out here in this pond. Most of this is actually winter runoff. And part of the problem is that this spring we did not receive the rain that we normally would have. That spring rain is what makes the grass grow. And without it, we can't make it grow. Not ourselves anyway. The grass really does require that 5 inches of rain that we normally receive between April and May. This year, to this point, from April until today, we've received 4.13 inches of rain. That's not going to do it. And that's definitely not going to grow this grass early enough to make it worthwhile, and especially is not going to grow the hay fields that we desperately need. But we have received rain within the last couple weeks. We've received a couple of those inches within the last 10 days, and that has been helpful. So as we take a look around the pastures today and we judge the pastures based on how much has been eaten, and figuring out how much longer these cows can stay in here before they move down to summer pasture, we can really kind of wonder how much that rain in the last 10 days has helped regrow old pastures that the cows have already grazed. We're going to take a look at that in just a few minutes as these girls come in and see what's going on. So this year, I think the name of the game is going to be pasture management, but maybe not in the ways that a lot of people are really used to. And I guess maybe rather than pasture management, we need to look at pasture utilization. By the way, I have to tell you, this is probably one of the best times, or at least one of my favorite times of night, or in the evening, to come down and hang out with the cows. This is kind of what's known as the twilight hour. It's that last hour before sunset, and you can see that we've got a decent sized storm that's moving around to the north side of us, but that's not going to do us any good. And the sunlight, obviously, and the sunset is being hidden by that storm. But I do love coming down here and hanging out with the cows this time of day. It just seems like, I know you wouldn't guess it to listen, but it's peaceful. It's almost serene. Cows eat grass. All cows eat grass, actually, whether they're grass-fed or grain-finished, they all eat grass. And the way that they eat grass is kind of like picking and choosing how they eat grass. You can see here as we take a look at some of this, the way this grazing has happened, is the fact that we see taller grass mixed in with the shorter grass that the cows have already eaten. They're going to skip over grass they don't like. They're going to save that for later. And they're going to be really picky and choosy about where they graze and what they eat. And like I said, they'll also eat closer to water first. So one of the things that we're going to look at over the next couple weeks is being able to utilize the most of our pasture by moving water around, and how we're going to do that. I'm not exactly sure how we're going to do that yet, but I imagine it's probably going to be a matter of water tanks and movable troughs and water that we can move around to keep these guys grazing where we want them to graze. While there's still water in ponds, it makes it a little bit difficult. They'll tend to wander out towards like natural reservoirs and stuff like this before they'll go to water troughs. I don't know why that is. The water could be cleaner in a trough and they still want to come down and hang out around fresh water or at least runoff. That's probably just built into a cow's mental psyche. I don't know how that works, but there's some sort of logic behind it, at least in a cow's brain. But for us, we want the cows to stretch their legs. We want them to get out and move to areas that they haven't grazed before. And here, even in this pasture, which is less than 1,000 acres, we are going to take a look at some areas that they've never grazed and see the difference between what we're looking at here and there. And by the way, you can really take a look here from the air and see just over the fence, this darker green part is actually summer pasture. They haven't been in there yet. And you can see the difference between the grass. You can see the difference in the quality of grass and even just the color of the grass and the ground and how much different it is between someplace that they've been and grazed and someplace they haven't. So we're gonna go for a little ride and leave these guys behind us. And we're gonna head probably to the far, what would be the east side of this field and take a look at what it looks like over there. I don't think there's any water, any natural water up there. There's a couple areas where there could be water, but I don't think there is. I don't think we got enough runoff to fill those up. We're gonna go take a look though and see what it looks like. While this storm is going to miss us, it is encouraging to see storms like this still moving through this country. We just now, I think it was just a couple of days ago, they put the burn ban in place, which means that you can't have any open fires, that you can't do fireworks, all that kind of stuff. But seeing the rain still falling around here this time of year is very encouraging, because normally, and I think I've said it before, but come the 4th of July, it's almost like turning off a spigot. You don't see any rain out here after the 4th of July. So it's nice to see storms like this still building and still dumping rain. It's not dumping here, but it's going somewhere, and that's definitely needed. The fire hazard is incredibly high, even though we've had a good rain over the last few days. I'm going to stop right here for a second because I want to talk about sagebrush really quick. As long as we're talking about what the cows are eating and how fast they're eating it and what's left, we might as well talk about sagebrush, because the cows don't eat the sagebrush. So why is it here? Why do we put up with it? Why don't we just mow it down? Why don't we get rid of it? Why don't we pull it out? Why don't we spray for it? And there is, you know, everywhere that sagebrush grows is an area that the grass that a cow eats is not going to grow. So it's definitely a trade-off of how much sagebrush you have as opposed to how much you don't have. Obviously, hay fields, there's no sagebrush in a hay field, none at all. But sagebrush does serve a purpose. While the cows don't eat it, it does manage to catch snow, and that's where most of our precipitation comes from. We only get about 14 inches of precip per year here in Northeast Wyoming, and most of that comes from snow. So the sagebrush catches the snow, then it melts, and then it's directly into the soil. That's the purpose of the sagebrush. Whether or not we have too much of it, that's hard to tell, but it could definitely be thinned down a little bit. And the only way to really get rid of it besides spraying it is to mow it down year after year after year, which is why it's not in the hay fields, because we mow those hay fields constantly every year. So it just doesn't, it just never gets a chance to get a foothold there. So that's the story of sagebrush. Okay, we're just about as far away from the cows as we can get, and as far away from the water anyway. And up here, it doesn't look much better. This is a desolate, almost a wasteland of a field. It's really a shame to see it like this. To look and see grass that's normally going to be higher than the sagebrush, that's barely even peeking over, and not in most places. You can see the cows have not grazed up here. None of this grass has been bitten off. This has not been grazed. This is ungrazed pasture that is just junk. The cows are probably smarter than I am. They don't want to walk all the way up here just to eat from the probably one of the worst buffets that you could find. So the general consensus is that this field, this pasture, that normally they would be in this pasture until we were done haying in the summer pasture, which we do have some haying to do down there. We would in a normal year. They would be here until then. So that would put them in this pasture probably until at least the 1st of August. This year, I don't think we're gonna make it that long. And so I think what's probably going to happen is that these guys are going to be moved out of this pasture within the next few days, and then we're going to have to pick up our water ideas and being able to move cows around. We've got a storm moving in on us, maybe. I don't think it is. It looks like it's going around the north side of us, but who knows? Something might move in. There's another one that's forming to the south, this direction. You can see it back over there. It's going to be quite a while before that one gets to us, and who knows what's going to happen with it. But what we're going to do is we're going to head back towards a field where they've already grazed, where the cows have already grazed, and we're going to see if anything is maybe even growing back from the rain over the last few days. see in the pastures like this where even in the ditch where there would normally be grass growing, there's really nothing. But what this is going to force us to do is to become better ranchers, and along with that, you become a better person, I think. And being able to see these problems that we're gonna face, or that we're even facing now, and being able to start planning now for them in the future is paramount. That you have to be able to do this. You have to be able to face the problems head on. I mean, even as a kid and a young man myself, I remember avoiding problems. I remember knowing that I was having an issue, or that something was going to happen, or I wasn't going to have enough money to pay rent, or whatever it was, and ignoring it, hoping it would just get better. And I see a lot of people do that even still in today's society and today's cultures. And one thing that I learned by coming to the ranch and taking this role on is that you can't just sit back and expect things to fix themselves. You can't wait to win the lottery. It ain't gonna happen. You're just gonna have to buck up, deal with what you have in front of you, and make the best of it. And that's something that I think that I've taken to heart, and that I definitely try to pass on to my own kids, and to anybody that'll listen, that if you don't fix your own problems, nobody else will. And honestly, if you're waiting for somebody else to fix your problems, you're going to be waiting a very, very long time. So there is a silver lining to all this, and that is the fact that if we can get this to work, if we can get this intense grazing plan that I have working in my head, that's not quite figured out yet, but I'm working on it. If I can get this to all come together and I can get this to work, it could save the ranch money in the long run. We could be in a better situation where we can not buy as much hay, even in the bad years, that we can make things work, and that in the long run, it'll pay off. We're now down here in what we call the heifer pasture. This is normally where we breed heifers. And as you can see, it's obviously been eaten down pretty well. The cows were out here, and while they did move through this field, we moved them through it relatively quickly, and we're able to hopefully get it grazed to the point where if we do get enough moisture, that it'll start to grow back. So we can start looking for evidence of that now. And I think that even though it's hard to tell at times, we can get down here into the grass and take a look. Now this grass, and like I said, the cows are really selective eaters, so it's kind of hard to tell. But we can see that there's grass here that was grazed. You can see that this is lower than it is here. So obviously, this grass obviously hasn't grown back yet, but we can see that this is new growth here. So that's good. We want to be able to see new growth on fields that have already been grazed. This is obviously not enough new growth. We want to see tons more, but it's a start. And it's what we're looking for. Hopefully, if the rain continues, if we can average even just an inch every couple weeks would be nice. I don't see it happening. But anything is better than nothing. We are not going to be able to cut hay this year. I seriously doubt that even come September we'll be able to cut hay. I think that we're pretty much tractors are gonna sit this year. But at the same time, we're learning how to do things differently, and we're learning how to do things better, hopefully. So as we watch this storm float around us, literally like all the way around us, goofy storm. The question this week was, are the cows going to run out of food? And the answer is, yeah, they're going to run out of food eventually. But our goal is to make what we do have last as long as we can. That's going to take some quick thinking on our part, or at least some thinking. Let's not do it too quick. Thanks for joining me today. I got down here late, ended up trying to get too many things done today, and didn't film anything. but I did want to get you guys down here to see what the ranch looks like right now. We're going to be able to track this. We're going to be able to see what happens throughout this this crazy, wacky summer that we've had up until this point. So thank you very much for hanging out with me. Thanks for joining me this week as we continue our daily vlogs. We're off until Monday, but if you'd really like to catch up with us, you can do that Sunday night on the channel. It's called Beyond the Ranch. It's our sister channel, our auxiliary channel, whatever you want to call it, and you can meet us there where we're having a mailbag spectacular. We're going to go through and take a look at what people have sent us over the past few weeks and talk about how they can benefit the ranch, and who knows what's in there. It's going to be crazy. So stick around for that. Hopefully you can join us. I'd appreciate it if you did. Until then, have a great weekend. We'll see you Monday right here on Our Wyoming Life.